The Brand X podcast is sponsored by Audio Editing Solutions. Editing your podcast, just not your thing? Go to audioeditingsolutions.com and see how affordable professional audio editing can be. Welcome to the 13th episode of the Brand X podcast, and what could possibly go wrong with episode 13? I'm one of your hosts, John Buchanan, followed with my co-host.
I am Deuce.
Okay, Deuce is here with us in the house. And how's your week been, buddy?
I don't know what you mean.
Sound like you had a little rough weekend.
It was all right. I mean, we had a great time on Saturday. We went to a work party. Diane and I, and that was a few days to set up, and that was a good time. And then just had other extracurricular stuff popping up that I really didn't need nor was prepared for. But like John Lennon said, life is what happens to you when you've made other plans. And he got shot, so how prophetic was that?
Right, and apparently so does death. Quick question: the work party, the word work party? I mean, I know somebody finally said, you know what? We need to get a bunch of people over here to get this stuff done. So let's just call it a work party.
Well, actually, there's a long story to this, but in a nutshell, the team that I work on, we got together at somebody's house and we had it catered, and it cost everybody $15 a head. Their kids got to come free. And it was just a big barbecue. I mean, for the price of what it cost, you could not beat it. We had roast beef, we had chicken, we had all the salads. Basically, all you had to do was bring whatever you like to drink, if you drank it all. It paid for the soda and all. And I went down there on Friday, helped set up. I lent my tents and some chairs, and we ran and got tons of ice, because you're going to need that the whole day. And,
oh, my God. Yeah, it was so hot out.
Yeah, and we had about 80 people there. And,
wow.
It was a really, really good time.
Now, usually what they say is 90% of the work is done by 10% of the people. So you had 80 people there. So it was like 8 people working and like 72 were back at the tent drinking and eating and stuff like that? Or did everybody pitch in?
Well, as far as the actual setup, you are correct, sir, as Ed McMahon would say. There was only a small amount of the people that pitched in. And, Diane and I did this 2 years in a row. Mm-hmm. And we were going to have it anyway. We had planned to have it. But Diane is having some health issues. I think I talked to you about that, and she was really struggling with it. So back in May, around Memorial Day, after she had missed so many days of work, I said, we're bagging the party. She can't do it. And I can't do it myself with that many people. So, I went and told people, look, we're not going to do it. And 2 people that are a husband and wife, they worked together on the team with me, and they volunteered their home, and then it kind of got switched over to a work party. And they have a large property. They could do that. I live in, I live in a suburb. I can't have anywhere near that many people.
Outside.
And so they were gracious enough to volunteer their home, and, they came up with the idea of having it catered, and, that way everybody can pretty much enjoy themselves. So it wasn't as much work as, it was actually just the setup of the tents and the tables and the chairs and, just the running around and everything. So, and most everybody did bring a covered dish or a dessert. So, they did, they pitched in that way at their homes and, and brought stuff to eat. So it was a good time. It really was. The weather cooperated. We only had a couple of passing showers, which was kind of nice because it's been blisteringly hot here in the East.
That's true. It has been it's again, everybody says, oh, it's not the heat, it's the humidity. But that is the case now. Yeah. Because it's like when you walk out, it's like getting hit with a wet sock.
Yeah, I would much rather get hit in the face with a wet sock than the way. The air's been so heavy. I mean, people with asthma and allergies, I know they've been suffering. And, but it was great. We had a great time. And then yesterday I just had some stuff to do that I do for the club that I belong to. And, it's the first of the month. It's always the first week of the month is always pretty crazy for me anyway. So, and I think for most people.
I got to tell you, lately, I'm kind of like in a bubble. I'm like a bubble boy. I mean, I work from home. My office is 9 steps from my bedroom. It's 4 steps from the bathroom. I don't have to go out in this stuff. And I'll tell you, I've been working and in here, and I go out like when the sun goes down, and I look at my weather app on my phone. I look at, and it's like when it gets down below 80, then John goes outside.
It's cool enough to go out.
It's cool enough to go outside. But I remember when I worked in the elevator business, and it was like this, and you would walk outside at like 5 o'clock in the morning. It was like, oh my God. And then you knew, because in the elevator business, all the equipment gets real hot. So you would be working in machine rooms that were over 120, 130 degrees. And you would go in there and work in there. It was like brutal. So it would be, you would walk out, and within 10 minutes, you were soaked in sweat. You were soaked in sweat until you got home that night. So I don't miss that. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, that gets old real fast.
I remember I used to take, in the summertime, I had anywhere between 3 or 4 T-shirts in my truck. So I could, and a towel. So I could go and towel off, somewhere around 10 o'clock or so, throw on a fresh T-shirt, and then in 15 minutes, that would be soaked. But at least I could get through the work day. And I must have had like 40 black pocket T-shirts, what I would wear, under your uniform shirt. I had to have your uniform shirt on, which was, I would lose that in like 15 minutes. As soon as I soaked through that thing, I'd just throw that in the truck. So, yeah, it was tough. But
how many black T-shirts did you have white under armpits because of all the salt that comes through and it bleaches the shirt? That's always wild.
You know how when I tell you I sweat, like when I would take one of the shirts off, I could wring it out so that the salt wasn't under my arms. It was like an inch up from the bottom of the shirt. That ring, right. I mean, it would just go all the way down there. I know exactly what you're talking about. So, yeah, that's brutal. Don't miss that. And on all day long, all you were doing was drinking water. It was crazy.
Are you one of those guys that sweats in the shower?
Yeah. Yes. That's me. We'll absolutely do that. And it's been that way forever. I can lose 10, 15 pounds of water weight in a day. They used to call me a sweat hog.
When Genghis owned the pizzeria, I used to take 3 showers a day because his store was open 11 o'clock in the morning until 11 o'clock at night. So we would get there, like, say, 10-ish to open up. And, so you took a shower when you got up. We went into the store. And then around 5 o'clock, when I started driving, I would drive home and jump in the shower and get changed. So that was the second shower of the day. Come back to work, and then the store closed at 11 p.m. So by the time you got home, it was like 12, right. And I would take a third shower just because it's much like the elevator business, between all the ovens, and people don't realize it. It's all that refrigeration that you have.
Yeah.
It just throws heat. And, my father had about 4 freezers and 7 refrigerators of all different sizes, because you had stuff everywhere. And then you got pizza ovens, and you got a deep fryer, and you have the grill. So it was, like you said, it was every bit of like 120 degrees back there.
It's crazy.
And that's just the way it is. It's nothing you can do about it.
No, you just got to rep. I used to we used to have boxes of rags, and I used to go in there and find like the nicest rags, the longest rags, because I have a big bulbous head too. And I would always tie a rag around my head like a bandana to keep it from rolling down your face and into your eyes. It was kind of crazy. But I remember back in the day with Mark, we would, when I was like in my early 20s or something, after we would get done work, we would always go play basketball or racquetball or something. And nobody wanted to guard me playing basketball because I would slime them. Like if I ran into them, they were like, come on, man.
Sounds like that's the first guy I'm picking for my team. Here you go. I'll take the big sweaty guy.
Yeah, no one's going to cover him under the basket. I'll tell you what. Here's crazy. Here's what's crazy. And a happy birthday to my friend Mark today that we're recording this on, actually August 1st. He's double nickels. He's 55. I'll be 55 in October. He's 55 today.
Happy birthday to Mark.
Yeah, I'll tell you something. We've been calling each other saying happy birthday each year now, probably for 35 years. If we don't get a chance to talk to each other that much during the year or something like that, he's one of those guys that, I don't know who started the tradition, but, he either calls me or I call him on his birthday to kind of see what's going on, what's shaking. I always say, so, okay, how's it feel to be 55? Because if it's no good, I'm not coming. And he's like, it's all right.
Yeah, same as 54.
Same as 54. But, we're getting up there, man. 55. I mean,
you're not getting older, you're getting better. That's what they keep threatening us with.
Well, like I said, the back's still giving me issues. Not as bad as before. Like I can walk upright now.
You sound better.
Yeah. Well, I'm not on.
When you first had it happen, you sounded exhausted and really drawn out. Almost like to actually talk like you were in pain just talking.
Well, when we recorded, I was, because I was kind of like sitting over to the right because I couldn't sit straight up. But I haven't been using pain medication, which is kind of nice. But it's just like you're at that age now where stuff starts to go south on you. Like things happen to you. You're like, oh, I can't do that anymore. Yeah. Or, something would happen and you normally would be like, oh, I'll just jump in there and do that. And you're like, I don't think I'm going to do that. I don't think I'm going to do that.
I think there's a sleep number bet in my future because I cannot, if I go to sleep, I can sleep fine. It's not a problem. But after I've been in bed about 5 hours, my back just starts to hurt.
Right.
And the longer I lie in bed, the more it hurts. And it doesn't matter whether on my sides, on my back, I'm just in pain that I have to get up.
Right.
And, I was in a couple of car accidents and, stuff happens to you along the way. And I don't know if that's why or if it's just because I'm getting older, but I'm not a heavyweight by any mean,
No, you're not.
My back just hurts. And, so after about 5 hours, that's it. I'm getting up. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, I think we can only sleep as well, with me, I can only sleep for 5 hours. I can't sleep any longer than that. I wake up, I'm like, hello.
Yeah, I'm that's just all up. I need. Yeah. I mean, when I was a kid, I could have slept
14 hours. Yeah.
Oh, no. I think if I was cathetered, I could just sleep for 7 days. Just screw it. I'll just piss in a bottle. That's all. Give me a big diaper. I mean, I know I could have done it. But, they say the older you get, the less sleep you're going to get. It's absolutely true. In my case, I can attest to that.
I'll tell you, it's funny. There is something going on back in my back area because like when I lay down, that's when I have my issues, when I stand up from laying down. So what happens if I try to roll over or move or something like that, I have a clunk. Like I got a bad ball joint down at the bottom there, like in the hip area. I hear a clunk. And then when I hear a clunk, I'm like, that's going to hurt. Mm.
Yeah, I can't imagine having a clunk going
it's a clunk.
In my body.
Like you roll, and it's like, before it was like a crack, like if your back cracked.
I get that in my ankle.
Right. Yeah,
like my ankle will crack. And the funny thing is I took after my mother, and she had the same exact thing. And Joe and I, if we were like horsing around, like beating the shit out of each other or doing something, if we heard that crack, it was like an early warning defense system, and we knew mom was coming and we would scatter, and that is at some point in my life, like when I was around like 18 or 19 years old, I got up out of a chair and I went to move and my ankle made the same exact noise. It's just like crack, and it's loud. I mean, it's like a loud pop.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very discernible. And, it's like, so, I mean, some things do run in families. And in my case, it's a cracking ankle that I got from my mom.
I know that when I go to the doctors, they're going to send me for an MRI. The problem with MRIs is I can't handle the confinement.
Really? So, you can't do that.
Can't do it. I've tried.
Diane has issues with that too.
Yeah. So they're going to send you in. So what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to sedate me and put me in there.
Can't you just go to sleep? Because that's what I did.
I'm telling you, the last time I was in there, when they put me in there, my head was so close to the top of it that I could hear when I would breathe out, it would come back into my face. So I knew the wall was right there. Yeah. You can't turn your head. They won't let you turn your head, and you're sitting in there. And I'm telling you, I was in there, and I was trying to calm down. And then all of a sudden, it was like a grizzly bear trying to get out of a PVC pipe. I started thrashing around, like, hold on. I'm like, hold on, I'm coming out. So they rolled me on out of there. And when I came out, again, soaked in sweat from, just like a panic attack or whatever that is.
Get the jitters.
The anxiety of it. And they're like, okay, no, we're not doing this. I'm like, can't you just give me medication? And like, no, you have to have it prescribed and it won't take effect. And then you need somebody to drive you home. So I never got the MRI, but I know when I go back, they're going to tell me, listen, you got to go get it. Especially when I tell them I hear a clunk.
Yeah.
They're going to say,
like, well, that can't be good.
We need to know what the clunk is. So you're going to have to go get an MRI.
Yeah, people just willy-nilly don't go clunk.
No.
It's not like you're the Tin Woodsman from The Wizard of Oz where that's expected.
How do you fix a clunk? It's not like they can take a part out and put a new part in.
Well, it could be I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I know with knees, I mean, you could have like a calcium deposit there that might be rubbing the wrong way, or it could be like I had my meniscus and my knee shaved down.
Right.
And it used to make a strange kind of a sound. It wasn't really a pop or anything. And I had that taken care of, and I, knock on wood. Yeah, 2002, I had that on. Right after I sold my business, I had that done. And, knock on wood, it hasn't bothered me ever since. My knee's been fine.
See, now I've had both knees done for that. Listen to us. We're like old men now. Look at it.
Well, but you got seriously hurt at work.
Yeah, but still, I mean.
I just, for whatever reason, I had a pain, and I went there, and they said, you have a torn meniscus, and, I didn't know what that was. And they said, well, no, we'll just go in there orthoscopically. We'll shave it down, and you should be fine. And in my case, it was right. I didn't hurt myself like you got hurt.
Yeah, but did they give you the epidural while you're awake during it?
No, they knocked me out.
Did they really?
Yeah.
They gave me the epidural where, it's just like you're dead from the waist down.
Yeah, I had to get a ride home. My mom took me home, and it was right over in Voorhees, right around the corner from. Actually, that's what we did. I went to her house. She drove me there, came back and picked me up, and then we went back to her house, and then Diane picked me up from her way. Hello, I speak for a living. She picked me up from my mom's house and then brought me home after work.
I remember the only time that I wasn't even under then. They didn't put me under then when I got my wisdom teeth pulled out. My mom had to go get me. I was living with Sandy at the time.
Right.
Sandy got her wisdom teeth. Like, I made my appointment to get my wisdom teeth out. Sandy made her appointment to get her wisdom teeth out at the same time. I'm like, why would you do that? Like, I need some help here. So she went back to her mom's house. Her mom took care of her. My mom dropped me back off at the apartment, and they, how they pack like gauze back in there.
Gauze and
well,
they give you that rinse.
Right. Well, apparently I woke up and I must have swallowed the gauze, and I was like choking. I woke up choking. I didn't know what to do. So I'm like, I coughed. I went like that, and this big wad of gauze come out of my mouth and like with an arc went over the couch and landed behind the couch. And then when Sandy finally came back home, I was like, I almost died here. She goes, what happened? I go, well, the thing I caught, and I coughed and it went behind the couch. And she went, did you get it? I went, no. And she yelled at me for not getting the gauze. It went behind the couch.
Yes. I don't know what it is. Everybody that I know seems to have a shady doctor. It's like it seems like people that I know, they go for a procedure and they get these doctors that will prescribe them any opioid that they want, any painkiller, like, sure, go for it.
Right.
And I always get the friggin' honest doctor. They won't prescribe nothing.
You get Tylenol, and that's it.
I got my wisdom teeth pulled out. They only took them out of my left side. They said that the right sides were fine. And I owned the business then. And some people do well with their wisdom teeth getting removed. Unfortunately for me, I was not one of those people. So
they
you
gave me the dry socket?
I don't know what that. Well, I was open and everything, but I had a lot of pain. I had a lot of discomfort.
Right, they had to go in and pack it with like gauze, didn't they?
Oh yeah, that stuff was all in there. Yeah, it was way back.
What they do is like if you get a dry socket, they say it's so painful that they take that medicated gauze and it's like a pain reliever, and it's almost like, I guess they soak the gauze in what's that, Ambisol.
Yeah, and I had some kind of weird rinse that I had to rinse my mouth out like every 6 hours, but. I go back to work like the next day. Well, 2 days later, Genghis filled in for me. Mm-hmm. And then the medication runs out. Whatever it was that they gave me, it was wonderful. But now it's gone. Right. And I'm in agony. I'm waiting on people. Can I help you? Trying to speak. Right. And I called them up. I says, I need more painkillers.
Whatever that is, I need more of it.
And the guy's like, no, take Advil. That's it.
Really?
I was just like, yeah. I mean, and I want to choke people when they tell me, oh, my doctor gives me anything I want, and then we wonder why if that's true. I don't know if they just say that, but it just seems like so many people have said that to me. It's no wonder half the country's walking around addicted to stuff.
Yeah, that's the problem too. Because
and I don't like taking pills, but I was in agony. They actually sped up the operation because I called him up and said, you got to get me in now. Oh, well, you're scheduled for 2 weeks. I said, I will take these teeth out myself with a needle nose plier, unless you go, no, we don't want you to do that. So they squeezed me in the next day. I was, and I like to think I have a pretty high tolerance to pain, but And I was 38. You figure after you're in your 20s, well, I'm not going to have any issues with my wisdom teeth.
Right.
Not so, because mine started to act up at 38. I had to have them ripped out.
I'll never forget. It's like the joke. It's you go into the dentist's office and he's getting ready to give you your Novocaine or your medication, and all of a sudden he's like, "Why do you have me by the balls?" And I go, "Well, doc, we're not going to hurt each other now, are we?" So it's the same kind of thing with that. With that, you just want to make sure. I'll never forget when they were doing my back. They were going to give me an epidural, and I remember they were doing my one knee. The first time I ever had my knee operated on, and they said, well, they're going to give you an epidural. And my ex-wife, well, she was my wife at the time. She goes, "Don't let them give you the epidural, whatever you do." And I go, "Why?" She goes, "Oh, it hurts so bad." So she said, "Tell them to put you under." So I go in and I said, "Hey, listen, I want to be put under. I don't want to have an epidural. I heard it hurts." And the guy says to me, "Listen, I'm the one that's going to be doing this, and I'll tell you right now, if you feel anything, you can, when you wake up, you can punch me as hard in the face as you want." I said, "Doc, I'll take you up on that. Just so you know." And he goes, "Okay." So we're sitting there, and then he was supposed to put something in my IV, to kind of make me all loopy. So he's sitting there talking, right? And he's feeling around and he's poking my back like he's going to put this needle in there. And I go, "Hey, doc, I still feel things and I'm still here. So if I was you, I'd run." And he goes, "Oh, hold on." And he put the thing in the needle in my IV. And then it was like, nah, like the Three Stooges, nah, 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 nah. It was like right out.
What was he doing prior to that? Was he like
they're just
being the chatty Cathy?
Yeah, they're all chatting it up, talking about it. And he's feeling around where he's going to put this thing. And all I'm like, "Hey.
Yeah, not so fast.
Not so fast there, Pocahontas. Let's get some of those drugs into the IV here so I'm all loopy."
Yeah, the hell with that.
But so it's not fun getting old. Wouldn't you love to go back to if you could go back to an age, what age would you go back to?
Well,
I'm thinking
all
21.
my life I wait. Well, that's what I would think first, but because you can go to bars and drink, and that's the obvious answer. But I was drinking illegally before that anyway, so. But that's a pretty good question. I mean, the only age I really wished to be was 17, just so that I could drive.
Right.
That's what I couldn't wait for, and it just seems like a lot of these kids today, they don't seem to have that passion.
Yeah, they don't care.
They're so lackadaisical about things.
Well, kind of brings us to our first topic.
Almost like I knew what I was doing.
Almost like, what a segue. Listen to this. Of course I can't.
Oh, I know what this is.
There he sits inside your local coffee shop, sporting a main burning facial hair. Somehow he believes, although he has no job, that by his 30s he will be a millionaire. Millennials, gotta love millennials. Millennials, gotta love millennials. She posts lots of selfies on her Instagram with a quote that's inspirational. Hopes to change the world while wearing yoga pants, armed with her dreams and knowledge of essential oils.
Everybody, MILLENNIAL, gotta love millennials. MILLENNIAL, gotta love millennials.
27 years old, trying to make it on their own. Maybe stop by leaving your parents home, but maybe we're just wrong. Criticism isn't easy for their ears. They feel like they know most everything. See, they grew up with undeserved confidence, 'cause they got trophies just for participating. MILLENNIAL, gotta love millennials. MILLENNIAL, gotta love millennials.
So anyhow, I'm going to fade that out.
That is brilliant, by the way. I remember seeing that about a month ago, and that guy was picking the Beatles' Obla Di Obla Da.
Yes.
Not the first song that would leap to my mind to do a song parody to, but that was brilliant.
And the thing is, what it is, it's a video of him, four of him, and that's all a cappella. There's not one instrument in the whole thing.
What is his name while you got it up there? Give that guy some credit.
Oh, I was going to put this in. It's called Hillbilly Repairs. Is where I got this from. Now it says, "This is not my song and not sung by me. I love the sound, not happy about the wording, and not hating on everyone. Dude, I don't like the wording, and I'm not hating on everyone. Just give credit where credit is due." Oh, his name is I guess it's Tyler.
Okay.
Michahyler. So anyhow, I'll have this in the show notes, link for this. But millennials,
yes,
and now they're in their 20s, mid 20s. You know, they're starting to take over. They're going to be the next us.
Well, I don't think they're ever going to take over.
You don't?
Based on my anecdotal evidence, but
yeah. Now, when I told you about this topic, you said, "Hey, listen, I wrote a
diatribe."
I didn't say diatribe.
No, I said so. No. I know what I wrote.
He wrote a diatribe on there, and I'm, listen, I have a raging, ADD, so I tried to get through it, and I really
that's what I say. A little background story. As you know, I sit here at my computer and I rule the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there was a letter that was going around that a lot of people that I'm friends with on Facebook, they were sharing it, copy and pasting, sharing it and everything. And if you read it, it just comes across as very whiny and very self-serving.
Mm-hmm.
And so I responded to it, and I broke it down paragraph by paragraph, and then I just put my thoughts on this. And it comes from, the fact that I was self-employed and I worked for a commission, which is hard to do. If you ever see those advertisements for a commission sales job, it always says get paid exactly what you're worth. And that can't be any closer to the truth than that, because if you're not willing to work, you're not going to get paid. And that's why I think a lot of people don't like commission jobs, because they know that they're worthless, to put a finer point on it. They don't have what it takes to get through that. So, and that's why I wrote that. And I said, this is going to be really hard to whittle down. Let me just send it to John. And,
yeah.
I know he'll get through one paragraph.
About a paragraph and a half. I really tried to hang in there. But I understand what you're saying. But so here's the thing that I was saying. All right, so we have these millennials now, and it's kind of funny. But here's the thing. My question is that first of all, how did these millennials come to be? Because it's not just like one or two; it's a generation of them. And I'm coming up with the premise that it's our fault. Now I can already see you start to turn red, and I understand that. But let me just, before you totally blow my argument out of the water, at least let me make my argument. So one of the things is, when I was 12 years old, I had a job. And before I had a job, I had chores where I had to go do things. There were certain things that I was responsible for in the yard, taking out the trash, feeding the dog, mowing the lawn. I mowed the lawn when I was 10 years old. All right. First job I had was pumping gas at 12 years old and working in an auto repair shop. Now, the thing is, my father owned it, so I was allowed to do that. But there were still things that happened that you could go make money, even if you didn't have a father. Say you had a father that was a longshoreman. He couldn't take you to work or something like that. You could always go find a job working at some kind of store, doing something, or get your lawnmower out and go mow lawns for somebody else and make some money, just to make some spending money or stuff like that. Today, the kids just don't seem to do that. When it was a snowstorm, we used to scramble to get dressed so we could get out there first to shovel the sidewalks for people that needed their sidewalk shoveled so we could get some money. And then afterwards, we went sledding. Right. We always wanted to make money.
Yeah, there's always a thing that you could do. And everything that you did, we did as well. Rake leaves, cut grass, shovel snow. Also a big thing, which I think that's gone the way of the nickel cigar, and it's kind of a shame, was paper boys.
Well, yeah.
And I was a newspaper carrier for, at the time, an afternoon newspaper. So after school, we went to the paper drop, picked up our papers,
folded them, put a rubber band
put
around.
put them in our bicycle basket if we had it, or in my case, I just had the big canvas satchel, and I just walked them to everybody's house, put it right in the mailbox, and then I went home. And yeah, so those jobs are gone. They've disappeared. And Genghis was self-employed. So Joe and I were pressed into indentured servitude at a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you know what, we had to do chores at home as well. But I don't think there's one single thing that you could lay the blame on. I think it's a confluence of things that dovetail together.
Well,
and I think mostly in my opinion, I think it started with the schools, with these touchy-feely school psychologists. Because as you know, we didn't have that.
no.
Now they got these psychologists for like everything. And, you know, you're going to damage a kid's psyche and all that. So, well, there must be a lot of kids in the country with damaged psyches because I know they're working.
But the thing about, you know, here's the other thing that I was thinking of just the other day is that there's so much more that we worry about as parents. Like we feel like we can't, if we don't do this for our children, that they will be ridiculed in school. And the reason I say that, I'm talking about cell phones. Now, back in the day when we didn't have cell phones, of course, back in the mid 70s, late 70s, early 80s, we didn't have that kind of thing. So when we had if there was an iPhone then, I would have had to work to pay for that. Here's a perfect example. Back then, we didn't have iPhones, but you could get a phone number. It was called a teen line installed in the house. And it wasn't as much as the phone. It was like maybe $15 a month.
Right.
I had to pay that $15 a month. Well, my dad would just walk up, unplug the phone, and that would be that.
The other thing to go along with that, remember a scope?
No, what's a scope?
Okay, a scope was back in the day. I started dating a girl. You know, we're in high school, but I couldn't drive yet. So we would ride our bikes when we could. But she lived in Marlton, and I lived where I lived. And it was about maybe a half an hour bike ride. Okay, but needless to say, you're going to call on the phone. Well, Marlton was in the next county over.
I know what you're talking about now.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. So what you could do is you would sign up that phone number onto your home plan, and you wouldn't get charged the regular toll charge.
Right.
And it was called a scope.
That's right.
So in addition to having the teen line, which was $15, like you said, the scope was $10 a month.
Right.
So it cost me $25. Same thing. It cost me $25 a month to do that.
Right.
And I paid for it.
And we had to pay for it, or they would.
Right,
They
weren't talking.
You weren't talking.
Yeah. Game over.
Now the kids, they get a cell phone, and they get a smartphone. All right, they're not cheap. They're 60. According to your plan, they're about $60 a month, right? So if you've got 2-3 kids, that's $180 a month. I don't know about you, but $180 a month pays a lot of bills for me.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, with the 3 phones that I have here, and I only have 1 kid, so I don't know how some parents are doing it, but my phone and me and Wise are the only one that have smartphones, and I only just got one, as you know. Diane has something that's in between an old flip phone and a smartphone. I don't know what you would call it, but hers is only maybe a year and a half, 2 years old. But just for those 3 phones and the data plan, because of the 2 smartphones, it's costing me $230 a month.
wow.
Now, my neighbor next door has 3 kids, and every single one of those kids has a phone.
Right.
So I can you're talking 5 phones on that account. So I would have to guess he's got to be paying $350 a month.
Right.
I don't know.
So what would happen is that if you sent your kid to school without a phone, and they'd say, okay, well, I'm going to text you, or let me send you the link to this video, on your phone. They're like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have a phone. What do you mean you don't have a phone? How come you don't have a phone? Why would when your parents won't get you a phone?
Right.
And then it would be a big, that would be a big to do.
Yeah.
It would be a blow to their self-esteem. So instead of saying, hey, guess what? You know what? Why don't we do this? Why don't we figure out how you can make $50, $60 a month so you can pay for this and have a phone? We don't. We just go, okay, here you go.
But the other thing is, even though we didn't have smart cell phones, we had the equivalent, because if you didn't have, and I think it was worse for the girls, because generally teenage girls are very catty. It was designer jeans.
That's true.
And who had the designer shoes. For the guys, I think it might have just been if you didn't have a really cool pair of sneakers.
Right, if you had the Bobos. We used to call them Bobos.
Exactly.
Right.
And so we did have the equivalent. And, I mean, when I started working, minimum wage was $3.15 an hour, and then it went to $3.35.
Okay.
So, I mean, you had to work a long time to get. So that's why I was a newspaper boy, and I worked in my father's store and all the other stuff that we did, like you mentioned, raking leaves, cutting grass.
Yeah, just anything to make it. You always hustle on $1.
Right.
Kids today don't hustle $1. They got too much stuff to do. They can come home. They can get on the internet. They, back in the day, it was AOL, AIM, Instant Messenger. They would all get on Instant Messenger and talk to each other after they went to school. And then with video games, they could go play video games. They don't have. They weren't bored. We didn't have all that stuff. There was like, we had cable. Maybe we had 36 channels on our cable, and so we were kind of bored. So we were out looking to do something anyhow. Kids today, they want for nothing.
Well, we had our son late, relatively speaking. I mean, I was 31 when he was born. Mm-hmm. And usually by that age, people are 2 or 3 kids in. So, but, I got married at a later age, and then we started a family at a later age. So when I was 35, 36, and he starts playing Little League, that's when I kind of got an education, so to speak, because we're going he joined Little League, and they're only keeping the kids in for a certain amount, so everybody gets a chance to play, which I guess is fine. But the thing that really shocked me was like, we don't keep score. Well, what do you mean you don't keep score? So, we don't, there's no winners or losers here. This is all for the And I'm like,
why even play?
Right. I felt right. Well, not only that, I felt like I slipped into the Twilight Zone. But the funny part of it was when the game was over and I would talk to Wise, and he was like, yeah, we crushed him. It was 27-13. And I'm like, well, how do you know that? They're not keeping score. Well, we keep score.
Right. The kids are keeping score.
Yeah, the kids knew what the score was because deep down, I think it's human nature that you want to do well.
Right. It's a competition.
Right. But something happens in between when he was 5 or 6, or all kids were 5 or 6, to the further they go in school with this attitude that we don't want to have a blow to your self-esteem or no one's a loser, let's call them non-winners instead, I guess. It's like George Carlin, he was always brilliant on how they disguise things in language. I don't understand it. I mean, when I tried out, the first year I tried out for Little League, I didn't make it. And I went home and I was like, I was disappointed I didn't make the team because a lot of my friends did. But the next year, I practiced harder and, I applied myself. And then the following year, I got picked to play on a team.
Right.
Back then, it's like, oh, no, everyone's playing, whether you suck or not.
Yeah. You had to go for tryouts. And if you couldn't catch a fly ball, or you couldn't hit a ball past the pitcher's mound, they said, hey, kid, go home, practice, come back next year.
Yeah. And the parents were fine with that. Our parents were fine with that. So a lot of these... the parents we're talking baby boomers. They're our age. They're us. So I don't know what happened where you can't, where a little critiquing isn't helpful. It became like, oh no, you're damaging his self-esteem.
Well, I tell you, I didn't play a lot of organized sports. I played baseball for a bunch of years, and I have the most embarrassing baseball story, how it ended my baseball Little League career. I'll tell you that in a second. But we would play sports, the seasons of sorts. We would always play football in the fall, until the winter, and then we would play street hockey. Okay, and they didn't have street hockey. Yeah, we'd have pickup games. Everybody in the neighborhood would come out and you have pickup games, and then we would play. We tried to play baseball, but baseball was always hard. So you ended up playing a home run derby. So you had like a couple people in the outfield. You had home run derby, and in the summer you'd play basketball. All right, and and listen, I'm no athlete. All right, I was probably, if we had A athlete, if you went by grades A, B, C, D, F, I was probably a C minus. Okay, I could play, I could get in there. I tried hard, but I had one friend who used to try to play hard, but he was so uncoordinated. It was such a sin, but he tried. He tried. He had heart, man. He tried his hardest. He would try. He tried to get better, but he just didn't have it. It was a sin. But we would, he would always play. And yeah, he would get picked last, but so what? He got a chance to play. but he would always try to play hard. And whenever he would do something, like say if we were playing basketball, if he ever made a basket, it was like, woo! Like, it was like
dump the Gatorade over his head.
If he made like a 2-foot jump shot from from the side of the basket, everybody would woo, like he made a 3-pointer, like he shot one from half court. So, I mean, we rooted for him and everything, but today we don't have that.
No.
And there's video games, and you can and then you can get cheat codes for the video games, and so
that's a whole other thing. I mean, nobody.
Yeah.
I mean, they play video games and then they're downloading the cheat codes. I was like, well, I don't know. I don't get it. I guess I'm old fashioned.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're going to have the cheat codes, what's the problem? Here's a perfect example. I remember the first time that I was playing a video game with somebody, and they had a fishing game. So you'd have to go and you have your thing. I think it was a Wii. You had the fishing game, and you had the controller. And when you felt the thing vibrate or whatever, you would pull, and then you would like shake it so that it would reel the fish up. Well, and you have to cast and all that kind of stuff. And I thought to myself, why am I sitting here in the living room doing this when I could actually take the kids, because I got 6 fishing poles outside and a box of stuff, and we can go out to the corner of the yard where all the leaves blew up, and we'll pull that apart. We'll get some worms. We'll go out and catch some real fish.
Right.
Well,
Yes.
okay. So now I said, let's go do some real fishing. So I said, okay. So I pull out the rods, I dust them off, I get the stuff every ready. I look in the tackle box. Yeah, I got hooks and all. I go out, I get a box. I go out in the thing, I rummage around. I get about 15 worms. I'm like, okay, that's good. Now I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I'm not 15 anymore. I've got to go get a fishing license. So now I have to go to Bob's Sports. When that was
Glassboro. Bob's Little Sports Shop.
Or I went to the Sports Authority. I think I went to the Sports Authority. Had to pay my $15 to $20 for my license, and then we went down to the local lake and we went fishing. And the kids had a good time, but it just seems to me that I don't know. I don't think the kids I didn't have my dad take me fishing. We fished a lot. But my dad was working, so we would just get the rods, put them on our bicycles, ride, and go fish. Kids don't do that anymore. They don't learn how to fish. They don't learn how to hunt. They don't learn how to play sports by themselves because...
Well, not only that, it's something that not to interrupt you, I know I do that.
It's okay.
But it's just like, we were at my mom and dad's house at a barbecue one time, and it was probably about this time of the year. So, Wise was, I don't know, 2nd or 3rd grade, and he said he was bored, He was bored. He says, well, what do you mean you're bored? It was, there's nothing to do. So Joe and I were like, well, how many go-karts have you built this summer? Have you built a tree fort yet? Have you dug an underground fort?
Right.
Have you waded in lakes to get golf balls and sell them back to the golfers? And, and of course his eyes just rolled over like we were speaking French, because I couldn't even tell you the last time I saw kids play with a golf cart. I mean, a golf cart, a go-kart. Well, we used to steal the golf carts, but that wasn't the story I wanted to impart to my child at that time.
Right. When you say go-kart, you're not talking about a motorized go-kart. You're talking about a wooden thing.
I'm talking 2x4s and plywood, and you'd get the carriage wheels. You would just trash pick bicycle wheels, and a lot of times we would build a go-kart and race it and play with it for 2 or 3 days, and then we would tear it apart and try to make it better.
Right.
And, because it was almost like, well, that's the prototype. Now if we make this a little bit longer, if we make this a little bit shorter, we could get 3 guys to ride on it at the same time. We were trying different stuff. And when was the last time you saw a kid play with a go-kart?
Never. I can't remember the last time I saw. Why would you even think of to do that?
Right. And we did it every summer. It was go-kart season.
Right. Now, you just made me think about something because now they have NASCAR games out that you can drive, NASCAR, that are so lifelike that you can get the steering wheel and the gas pedals and stuff. They are so lifelike that a lot of the NASCAR drivers just learn a track. They play the game to actually learn how to drive the track. It's
realistic.
Yeah, realistic. So
that's kind of fascinating. But again, that takes money. And trash picking wood and bicycle parts, every trash day and keeping it, because kids are kids, they'll find this stuff.
Yeah, but for $100, hey, Dad, can I get $100 game and a steering wheel and a set of pedals, so I can drive NASCAR? Okay, so we do that. So are we responsible for the millennials? Do you think maybe?
Well, you always want to do well for your children, because everyone says, well, I don't want him to have to struggle like I had to struggle. Well, quite frankly, after your mom and dad and my mom and dad, I don't think anyone really struggled.
I think they're struggling more now than they did back then.
Well, what I mean by that is like, what hard luck story do I have to tell my grandchildren? Oh, you're lucky. When I was a kid, if I was cold, I had to walk across the room to the thermostat and turn it up.
Right.
I mean, you know what? I didn't, scuttle coal and drag wood in and
chop wood.
And have to go to the bathroom my family's from South Philly. Well, a lot of those houses in South Philly didn't get like bathrooms until like the 40s or 50s. There was an outhouse in the back.
Yeah, and you had to go out and sit on that cold wooden seat.
Right. And you tell that to people, they find it kind of hard to believe because they figured the cities had all that stuff. Well, they might have had it first, but not everybody growing up in the Depression or World War II had it.
The house that we moved into when I was 7 years old had a double outhouse in the back. It actually was still there.
I've seen one of those.
Yeah.
I've never used one, obviously, but I've seen those.
Yeah, and it was still there. It was still a double outhouse. And, of course, we would always go in there and use it. And then we would get yelled at, stop going and using the outhouse. Well, isn't that what it's for? Yeah, but now it stinks. I guess back in the day they would figure out a way to make it not stink as bad. I don't know. Throw lime in there or do something. Or
Pine Sol.
Pine Sol. Oh.
Yeah, that was the Mr. Cleaner Pine Sol. That was what
everybody used?
Yeah, that was it. I mean, what smells better than Pine Sol?
I guess you're right there.
You have to douse it with something. You got to keep the flies away and everything. Getting back to the millennial thing, I mean, we see all that. I know with your situation, have you worked with millennials yet in a workplace? It's very trying.
You know what? No, I can't say there wasn't any in the elevator business.
And I know there's an exception to every rule. I mean, I'm not, I don't want to make the mistake of painting every single quote unquote millennial with the same brush because I do know some hard workers. But using myself as an example, I mean, I got a job with a Fortune 500 company at 23, and you remember when I got it.
Right.
And I did that for 7 years. I started my own business at 30. Was very successful. I mean, at 30, I had my own business. I had my first Corvette. I had that job with a Fortune 500 company. And I see very, very few parallels with the people of today. And I know there's people that are successful at a young age.
Sure.
I'm not denying that. But it just seems that I knew a bunch of people of my age where we all had similar stories like that. I mean, some of these kids are still at home in their 30 plus years of age.
Do you think that, and again, I don't have anything to back this up, but like there's not as much opportunity to go out. Like we could go out and get a job. Like you said, you got a job with a Fortune 500 company and I went out and got a job,
You got a job probably with close to a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah.
That was a big company.
Right. But, like I said, and I had help. But, before that, I had worked as a painter. I never made bad money. I mean, I didn't make elevator money, but I didn't make bad money when I was, growing up. But there was jobs, like there was always a place where you could go and find a job that you could make a livable wage, where you could have an apartment and pay your bills and stuff like that. I don't know if that's out there now for these kids. I mean, the reason entrepreneurs are becoming so prominent is because what else you going to do? Got to do something.
Right.
You got to do something. You can't, there's not.
And they're really not getting any help from the government. They're hitting the entrepreneurs hard in the pocketbook now. So it's really getting.
Where are they going to get their money from? They got to get it from somewhere. They can't get it from big business anymore. There's none around. When we were growing up, my father, when he got out of school and everything, what you did was you went around here and you got a job in one of the factories here. There was
apprenticeship.
Yeah, there was Texaco
glass company.
Well, there was Texaco here. There was Mobil here. There was refineries here. There was all kinds of industry here where you could go get a job. DuPont employed thousands of people. The Navy Yard. Navy Yard across the river, thousands of people it would employ.
Garment district alone, my father was telling me, in Philadelphia, they had a garment district. I'm sure every city had a garment district, which was nothing like the New York City garment district by any means. But in the 50s, my father was telling me the garment district employed 100,000 people in Philadelphia. And back then you would go to work and over your lunch hour, you could find another job.
Mm-hmm.
You would come back from lunch and say, hey, listen, I found another job. I'm giving you my 2 weeks notice right now.
Right.
Now that was during the 50s and 60s and, the economy was booming and
we were making stuff in
we
this
made more things in this country then. And that's the sad. A lot of the business went south or now they're completely leaving the country.
Right.
But I mean, it's like, be that as it may. I mean, I think the millennial thing where they're just a little bit lackadaisical kind of predates the jobs disappearing.
I guess. I mean, and, what are we doing to stop that? Like, how do we stop that? And again, it's not as much the fathers, I would feel, would be more like pushing the kids out of the nest, letting them try to fail on their own, make it on their own and stuff like that. But it's a mothering thing to kind of hold them and say, no, don't worry about that. Don't go out. And I just think that we have to do maybe a little less mothering. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let them go out and learn how to fail and be
Diane
okay
gets mad at me because I call her, I married St. Thomas Aquinas. So,
I don't know what St. Thomas Aquinas.
Well, St. Thomas Aquinas was the defender of the faiths because no matter what my kid does, she will defend him to the death.
That's a mother thing.
That's it. He's never wrong. And I told him one time, I said, look, now I used to see on TV like these hoodlums that are brought up on murder charges and the mothers are there like, not my baby, not my, and I told him, I said, look, I know that would be your mother, but rest assured I'll let you fry. Because if you're, it's like, if they caught you and you're guilty, you're on your own, kid. You're going to fry.
Well, with my children,
but mothers don't do that. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, I know mothers don't do that. Like with mine, I used to say, you called, what was it again?
St. Thomas Aquinas.
Okay. See, mine was just the business agent. Like, I always had to deal with the business agent when I had to talk to my kids because she was like their union representation.
Right.
Like,
yeah, that's the same analogy.
Yeah, same thing. So I always had to go talk to the business agent with my kids. Like, if I would start, she would get on the kids' side. And I used to say, we have to have a united front against the kids. It's me and you against the children.
Yeah.
If you back them, you take my legs out from under me.
Yeah. Now, did she say yes to your face? But then when it came time to do it, she'd cut you right off the knees?
Are you kidding me? She said, no, right to my face.
Oh, no. Diane would say, well, you're right. And then hey, you can't do that. Leave him alone. Now I know why. Yeah, now I know why OJ's in prison because, it's just like, you said you were going to back me up.
Yeah. No, it doesn't happen that way. Yeah, I'm just saying, it's just one of those things. So, I mean, again, I wish that the millennials will come around. I don't know.
Well, that's just what's
pretty soon. What happens when the parents die? Well, what do they do then?
Well, how bad will the following generation be if these people are the way they are now? Because it doesn't. I mean, every generation badgers the generation that comes after them. Okay, and I think there's a lot of. There's a lot of justification for that because the baby boomers, we really didn't experience anything like our parents did and our grandparents did. But, I mean, these kids have really come into a world of privilege. And
everything is displayed. Everything is out for display for the whole world to see.
So, I mean, if we've spoiled these kids as bad as they are, how bad are our grandchildren going to be?
Well, there's going to be a point where the money's not going to be there. And then it's going to have to go back to the other way. So sooner or later, because we're all survivalists, deep down in our core, we're all survivalists. So when you can't get the G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip, or you can't get the smartphone for all these other kids, then you will go out and make the money to do that. But as long as you continue to have it handed to you and paid for it.
You do what you have to do.
Yeah, you do what you have to do.
Here's a great story to just show you the difference of, I just told this story at the party that we just had because we had to go get, I mean, there's very few ice houses left anymore. There's only, a couple left where you get block ice and everything. But anyway, back in the day when my grandparents bought their first home in South Philadelphia, they had a problem with the water main pipe that was coming into their house. And this was during the Depression. And my grandfather, approached the city. No one had a phone. So he went to the water company, and they were going to charge him something like close to $50 to fix it. And part of that, of course, Philadelphia has, you've worked there, so they've got a fee for everything. Right. So they were going to charge him something like $15 just to shut the water off and do all that stuff. So they didn't have it. My grandparents had several kids by this point, and there was no jobs. You did what you had to do. So my father told the story, and my grandfather did also. He came home from work and he had this big bucket, and he put on these thick gloves, and what he had was dry ice. And what he did was he packed the pipe inside the house where it comes in from the street with dry ice, let that pipe freeze solid, and then he cut that pipe off, and then he brazed, and my grandfather had hands of gold. He fixed the whole thing while that pipe was frozen. Then he unpacked it with the dry ice, and it was fine. When we moved out of that, my father wound up buying a house. It stayed in the family for a number of years. When we sold that house in 1969, that repair that my grandfather did, like in the late 30s, early 40s, was still in the house.
That's amazing.
And that's what you had to do to get by back then.
Yeah, nobody would think of that today.
Yeah, it's just
nobody. The kids nowadays wouldn't even think. When you said dry ice, I know exactly where you're going with the story, but I mean, right. Nobody would think that. I remember when. So we all had cesspools,
right?
So, and we didn't have storage.
You mean septic or cesspools?
We had cesspools. We actually had.
Oh, that's real old school.
Yeah. So what happened was, the township was like, "Hey, guess what, guys? We're going to put a sewer line, or down your street. The only problem is you got to get from your house to the sewer line, which was like, I don't know, 150 feet."
Right.
And it had to be on a downward angle.
Yeah, and you had to start at least, I think you got to be down a minimum of 5 feet. You got to be below the frost line.
Right. You know who dug that ditch out to the road?
Jackass.
Jackass got a shovel when school was out. Jackass got a shovel, and he had a certain amount of feet that, I was like like a chink on the railroad line. I had a certain amount of tractor run, lay a day. And my dad would come home and say, now, just so you know, my father would come home after working all day, get a shovel, and get in there and dig with me.
Right.
And we dug all the way to the street by hand. I'll tell you another story.
And that's hard work.
My dad decided that we were going to have a built-in pool. You know who dug the hole for the built-in pool? Jackass. There was no backhoe that came in. That pool was 16 by 32, and it was dug down 4. Now we did bring a backhoe in to dig down to the 8, because we had a deep end, and someone had to dig that, and then a backhoe came in for that. But down 5 feet, 16 foot wide, 36 foot long, all dug by hand.
Yep, absolutely. Getting back to what you had said about cutting grass and mowing lawns, I don't recall. Maybe it's because I was just a dopey kid and you really didn't notice it. But I don't remember there being so many landscapers when we were kids.
No, because everybody cut their own lawn, or the kids cut it.
Yeah, so like kind of indirectly with the proliferation of landscapers or the laziness of baby boomers, which is why that happened, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember there ever being in my development, I can go out right now and drive around, and I know that I will see 7 or 8 different landscape companies, trucks, parked around this development cutting grass. I know I can, because I see it all the time.
Let me ask you a question. Do you cut your own lawn?
Damn right.
Do you have a push lawnmower or a riding?
I have a push.
So you go out and push mow your lawn.
Right.
Every week.
Well, if it hasn't been growing because it's been blisteringly hot.
But I'm saying, yes. When it grows, you go out there and push it.
I'm out there at least a week. I cut it, I weed whack it, and I edge.
Now, does Wise do any of that?
Oh, of course not.
No?
He used to, but now in his, I think he could do more. Well, I think he could do more around here, but he does work 2 jobs and he's going to college full time.
Okay, well,
And I'm fortunate enough in the job that I have. Like, I'm off today. I'll be off Thursday and Friday.
So you have time to go out there and mow.
I can do that. Now, before, when I was self-employed, it was a bitch.
I know.
It was like, it's my day off and it's pouring. Yeah.
I guess where
So
I'm
now
wrong.
the next time it's your day off, now the grass is like a foot high.
And you never had anybody come mow your lawn?
No. Well, one year I did because Diane was pregnant and I had just started the business. And then that's when the brutal cutting the rabbit in half story, which was horrible. So, which was funny in hindsight, but it wasn't funny when it happened. So, did I ever tell you that story?
Well, you didn't tell the listener, so you have to tell the listeners now.
My grass got very high. It was about a foot high, and I was all right, now let me go out there. And it's about 90-degree heat, and I got to go out there and cut the grass. So I, you're cutting the grass, you're pushing it through, and all of a sudden the motor just goes, and it just stalls dead. And I'm like, what the hell? And it rose up like a foot when it bumped and stalled out. And I pushed the mower over, and then there's this rabbit head just laying at the grass when I pushed the mower over. I'm like, oh. So I immediately threw up because it was horrible. Yeah,
really?
The eyes were open. Oh, yeah, it was so hot and everything, and it just there's blood everywhere and everything. So now I immediately throw up. I go inside the house, and I'm like cleaning myself up, composing myself. And my mother-in-law was living with us at the time. He goes, what's the matter, big honey? And I was just like, you forgot about that, didn't you?
I forgot about big honey.
So I was like, I ran over a rabbit and everything. And so now I go out there and I managed to get the rabbit into a trash bag, the head. But now the hard part is because I had a bag mower on the back
to get the rabbits.
Now there's rabbit guts and stuff all over that bag in there. I know that. So I just took it and I shook out everything into a trash bag, and I just threw everything away. I said I will never use that bag again. So. But yeah, to get back to our story, I cut the grass, I shovel the snow, I rake the leaves.
Yeah,
I write the songs.
I write the songs. Like I said, the funny thing with all that is, I remember I was working in the elevator business, and it was a Saturday. Same thing. I came home, and I lived when I lived at the first house in West Deptford. I had a small yard, so I had a push mower like you did. And I would go and I would mow the lawn. And it was like no big thing. So the guy calls me and says, the answering service had called and I had a call. And I said, I can't take that. I'm mowing the lawn. Sorry. So then my phone rings and it's one of my coworkers. And he says, did you just tell the answering service you're mowing the lawn? I go, yeah. He goes, you're an idiot. And I go, well, okay. Why am I an idiot? And he says, you just turned down a call that you're going to make double time on. All right. So you can mow the lawn. Now, he says, how much would it cost for somebody to mow that lawn? I said, I don't know, $30, $25, $30. He goes, yeah. Now just think how much money you just turned down. I said, I'll be right in. So I took the lawnmower, I pushed it into the garage, and I never mowed the lawn again. I just always had it just never made sense, because if I took one overtime call, paid for the lawn service for the month. And then some.
And your yard was much larger than what I got. I mean, because
this was the first house in West Deptford, which was a small one. The one in Mullica Hill,
Boyce Avenue.
Yeah, the one in Mullica Hill. Oh my goodness, that I started trying to push, and that
you were a land baron.
That was ridiculous. So I'll never forget. Same thing. I'm working in the elevator business, but I don't have anybody that can cut the lawn down there. So all of a sudden, I saw this guy come down the street like a landscaper. And I stood in front. I walked right out in front of his truck, and I go, yo. I said, how much to cut that? And he says, $40. I said, good. When can you do it? He goes, I'll do it today. So I said, okay. So now, I guess he was supposed to do it every 2 weeks. So I go out. It's on a Saturday, and my next door neighbor, he is like the lawn jockey. Like, he's out there. He cuts his lawn. He puts new seed down. I mean, he spends so much time on his lawn. His lawn is perfect. It looks great.
Right.
I have green weeds that if you cut them low enough, they look like grass.
Right.
So he hates my lawn. I see him. He takes because my lawn will intrude on his lawn. He takes the spray that he sprays for weed killer. He sprays it on my side, and he throws grass seed over there. So I don't know.
He's establishing the DMZ.
Yeah, he's establishing the DMZ. So the one day I come walking out with coffee, and he's sitting there, and he's taking the bagger off his lawnmower, and he's shaking. He goes, boy, that lawn looks like it's getting high there. And I go, yeah. I said, yeah, I think I'm going to get to that today. With that, Here they come down the street. They stop, they drop, like 4 of them, they run around. I mean, with like a half an hour, they're all done and all. And I come out with my cup of coffee and I take a sip of my coffee. I look over and I go, phew, I'm exhausted. I'm going to go back inside.
I have a neighbor down the street. He's a good friend of mine. I wish I had his energy because he's like me in the sense that he's a car nut.
Right.
Loves to detail his car. Well, he has a big truck and loves to do cars. And that's my calling also. I love to do that. But he's also a real land guy. And he'll come home from work this time of the year and he'll cut his grass. I mean, cut it.
Edge it.
Weed whack, edge. I'll bag everything up.
Right.
It's also, and then he washes and details his truck.
Wow.
I was like, I wish I had 1/10 of that energy now. I mean, that's one motivated individual. I tip my hat to him.
Some people are like that. So now he's not a millennial.
No, he is not. It says I, on the other hand, hate grass. Like Genghis says, I'm from South Philly. I come from concrete. So just like, and I only have a 1/4 acre, but most people would just hire a lawn service, not Deuce. He paid $60,000 to cover his lawn up with E.P. Henry over the course of 10 years. So it'll be less to cut. So
that's true. I forgot about that. Your whole backyard is done in pavers.
Oh yeah, and the front.
Yeah, the driveway
and the sidewalk.
Oh my goodness.
And around the shed and the freeze flower. Yeah, I want to start a new magazine. It's going to be called Fuck Mowing. So it's like, you too can have the mow-free lifestyle. So with all that work I did, I can knock it all out in about 45 minutes. So it ain't bad.
The funniest thing I ever heard was the time where you told me about Genghis, about recycling the trash, what he does with recycling.
Yeah. Genghis used to like to deliver commentary during TV commercials, and there's a million of them. So we just hear him say this stuff from the other room. Like, who's he talking to? He's talking to the television set. He's delivering commentary. So this one commercial is when this whole green movement started about 25 years ago. And this woman gets on the television and says, remember when we threw it all away? And then he goes, I still do. I pay enough taxes. Let them sort it the hell out. Yeah, to a large extent, I still throw it all away too. Which is I cloak shit. Like I got a little pile of leaves and weeds here. I pack it in with the regular trash. Yeah. It's all natural. What's going to happen?
Right. That's what I say. I don't generate enough trash to work. I'm going to pick it out. Yeah. Like I might have one jar. What am I going to put one jar in a recycle bucket and put it out for the trash?
Well, my town here and a lot of towns in this county are like the Gestapo.
They stop and check?
Yeah, and they put big blue or orange stickers on the trash that says you were in direct violation, and they're telling you we're not going to pick this bag up. So they did that to me one time. Right. So my solution was I just got the bag with the big orange sticker and I put it into a fresh garbage bag upside down, and a week later they took it.
I found a tin can in your trash.
So it's just like,
look into it. You.
my grandfather, he moved to Holiday City, which was a retirement community. And when he moved,
the Jimmy's truck is outrunning. Breaking news. This morning I woke up to Jimmy. He couldn't get his truck started. It was sitting in the driveway here, and he's trying to start it. And he just stopped in front of the window there and revved it because it was actually running. So the Jimmy's truck is running. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Breaking news, breaking Brand X news.
Jimmy is triumphant.
Well, see what happens is my blog room here, that's what they call this, the blog room. It's actually my recording studio, my everything studio. It faces where the driveway is for their auto repair shop. So things will happen in front of the window. So I'll just take and record right out the window. And I'll put it on Facebook, and I'll call it, in this episode of Out the Blog Room Window, this happens or that happens. But today was Monday morning. It's hot, and he's out there, and I could tell he was really, really upset. So my nephew, who works for my cousin as a repair, in the auto shop, he's like, dude, you got to get this on video. I'm like, all right. So then I put it on video. Now, I didn't put it on Facebook because, I didn't want to tap dance on the mic. The Jimmy's already not talking to me, which is fine.
It's going on 2 weeks now, right?
It might be 3. I don't know. I don't care.
Week 3.
Yeah, again, I don't care. So
it's like the Iran hostage situation. It's day 27.
It's because, yeah. So anyhow, he's not talking to me. But he came over here and he revved the truck up right outside the window so I could see. So I couldn't stop the podcast and film. So I just figured I would announce it on the podcast.
Now get in there.
Yeah. He listens too.
That's funny. Yeah, I know he's a big listener. He listens to quite a few podcasts.
Yeah, now I got them all hooked up now. He's listening to podcasts. I got you listening to podcasts. Don's listening to podcasts now. Look at it. Look what I'm doing here. I'm changing podcasting one download at a time. Like I said, I don't know what the story is on Millennials. They're the ones that are going to be taking over. Since they are the way that they've been raised and everything, will it become a socialist country? For the simple fact is they just expect everything to be paid for them.
Yeah. And
hopefully we'll all be dead by then.
Yeah, that's all the hooray for me kind of.
Right. Now, I know that you think that I'm a screaming bloody liberal.
No.
But when I was listening to Hillary scream her speech,
I didn't even watch it.
I figured you wouldn't.
Well, I didn't watch the Republican convention, so there was no way in hell
you were going to watch
the DNC
one. But for the simple fact that I just wanted to see, just for the comedic value. Because to be honest with you, this shit show, this election, has got to be probably the most comical election that this country's ever run. The most comical one in modern times.
Well, in our lifetime.
Yeah, in modern times.
I mean, historically, there's the election of 1800 was brutal. That's where the dirty politicking came from. So it's as old as the country is.
Right. So, it was funny when Hillary was doing her whole thing with the speech and everything. Donald held a press conference because, he doesn't want to be outdone. He's trying to steal some thunder back. So, yeah, it's amazing. And I'll tell you what, the press has really taken the gloves off as far as going after Donald now. Now that he's the nominee, they're really taking the gloves off, which actually plays perfectly into my conspiracy theory that they wanted him to be nominated so they could tear him down.
Well, in my opinion, I think they're going into overdrive because he is a candidate that can generate his own press.
That's true.
And I think they realize that they can really make them. He really doesn't need them to get his message.
No, he does not.
Because they're going to cherry pick what he says anyway. So he's basically taking his message right to the people. Good, bad, or indifferent, however that works for the country, I don't know. But I think that's why it's a love-hate relationship. They hate him because he can do that, but they love him because they can make money off of it.
And here's the other thing. And the funny thing, it was like, he is amazing in the way he is a brand. One thing you have to say about the Donald, he's a brand. He's an entertaining brand. So I saw a video where Ted Cruz is making a speech, and this is at the Republican National Convention. So anyhow, he's sitting here and it's outside and he's making a speech and he's like, now listen, I understand we have a nominee, and he's starting ready to bash Trump. And I guess this is right outside of the Cleveland airport. All of a sudden, here comes the Trump jet over, and it's so loud, and it's like right in the background where he's like, "Are you kidding me? How does this happen? How does he barnstorm everything I do?"
It's like the Bernie Sanders going out in a thunderstorm. It was like, I was like, what? Talk about bad timing.
It's exactly. It's like they're out there trying to protest and show their disdain for everything, and then all of a sudden there's this big giant thunderstorm that's completely soaks them. But I do feel, and it's not that this is anything that I'm going to say right now is going to be something that nobody doesn't already know, but the mainstream media is just letting Clinton, Hillary get away with murder,
right? And
they're just like tag teaming and just piling on Trump like nobody's business. Now, we got in a heated debate last time about
He did?
Well, about the politics. We talked about Trump and all that kind of. We got in there heated last time. So here's my middle of the road statement, and this is what I can't understand for people on both sides. All right, that if you swap candidates, if Clinton was the Republican nominee and Trump was the Democratic nominee, what's going on with Trump right now, the conservatives would be burying him for what's going on in his life. He's just easy to bury. Same thing. The Democrats that are burying Trump, if Clinton was on the other side, if she was the conservative, they would take her past, her record and everything, and they would bury her with what she's done in the past. So me being in the middle and watching this from both sides, I'm like, I don't know what to do because, and we've talked about this before, I can't vote for either one of them. So, what do I do? I'm not going to stay home, so I have to go. And both people from both sides, from the conservative side and from the liberal side, have both said that I am wasting my vote. And I say, well, I guess so, if you feel that way, but I feel that it's my job to vote for the best candidate and not vote for the other person, vote for a person just because you don't want the other one in office, which I totally understand. Now, I could actually see you jumping off the Walt Whitman Bridge before you would pull a lever for Hillary Clinton. So I understand what you're saying.
No, why do I have to die? I would throw Hillary off of the Walt Whitman Bridge.
Right.
So
but what I'm trying to say is that there's no way.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but I don't accept the premise of your
I know.
argument because there's no way in hell that Hillary would get the nomination for the Republican just basically on her on her record.
Right.
And the same goes for, well, I think if Trump ran as a Democrat, they would have loved to have had him.
Right.
Okay. I don't think he's a conservative, and that's pretty well established.
Right. And then the thing is,
so I mean, it's kind of like but I understand what you're saying. If they were to switch parties, I really just can't see that happen. That's the part of the premise of yours that I reject.
Well, I know that because, there's no way she would make it through the party's nomination having those liberal views. Yeah. But what I'm just saying,
and I wonder if Trump would also on the other party.
I agree. They would not allow him to go through with his views. But just say that I'm just saying by their record that if Donald Trump was on the Democratic ticket running for president, you would be burying him like a cat turd.
Well, I was burying him during the primaries.
Exactly. All right.
But so, what am I going to do? He's the nominee now.
So what I'm saying is that, and we've discussed this, so I'm not going to go back through all this thing, but just think what would happen is of all the people that aren't crazy about Trump but won't vote for Hillary, and all the people that are not crazy about Hillary but they won't for Trump would all vote for the Libertarian candidate, he'd win in a landslide. That's all I'm saying. That's it. Any comments?
Yeah, if the moon was the sun, it'd be day all the time.
Right, exactly.
It's it's just like Dr. Hibbert said on The Simpsons, and Siamese twins want to be called conjoined. It's just not going to happen. So,
yeah. So I mean, I think as much as we have an issue with talking about the election, I kind of feel how can you ignore it? It's like there's a raging fire outside, and you're like, it's warm in here. No one's talking about the fire.
Yeah, but I think people get bored.
I don't know. I mean, it's the most.
You and I like it because we're political junkies.
I'm not
but
really
I've
that
learned
much.
my
I'm not
lesson.
really that much of a political junkie. But this is what I know, that whatever side you're on, whether you're a conservative or you're a liberal, whatever side you're on, nobody's going to tell you something about your candidate or the other candidate where you're going to go, okay, you know what? I'll vote for the other one. That's never going to happen. That's not going to happen. So take that out of the mix. Like, I'm not going to try to convince you that
is wise.
that Hillary's a better candidate than Trump. Because first of all, I don't believe it, and I'm never going to I'm never going to try to tell anybody on the liberal side that Trump's a better candidate than Hillary because I don't believe it. That's number two. So it's going to be an interesting election, and I want to see how much traction, because I'll tell you one thing. The Johnson campaign smells blood in the water, and they're going to social media, and they're trying to get some kind of movement together.
Well, I saw where he just posted what the type of judges he would pick for the Supreme Court. And
now no one can see this, but Deuce's eyes rolled so much I thought they were going to come right out of his head. But go ahead, continue.
Yeah. Well, it's because, as I had mentioned the last time, it was about the Supreme Court picks.
Right.
And Johnson, he would look for judges that basically just rolled over for the liberals.
So you feel that
now
that
right
way?
there, well, I mean, he specifically mentioned Breyer and another judge whose name escapes me, and they're always reliable picks when it comes for a liberal cause. So it's like, well, there's another reason for me not to endorse a third party candidate. Yeah. So because bye Second Amendment.
Well, see, what I would do if I was the president is I would find justices that were hell bent on upholding the Constitution of the United States. That's it, because that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to uphold the Constitution of the United States.
And then those justices that did that are maligned and attacked, and that would be Scalia and Alito and Roberts up until the win that he gave Obamacare, and Clarence Thomas. If you're a conservative judge, they do uphold the Constitution. They don't legislate from the bench.
Right.
That's what the liberal picks always do.
I'm with you.
They create law. They're not supposed to create
No, they're
law.
supposed
to rule whether or not it's constitutional or not.
So let's just,
and they're not supposed to impart they're creating law, and it's been that way ever since.
It's a nightmare. It couldn't have come at the worst time, because you're right. Whoever's the next president is going to pick 3 of the next
4, because there's an empty spot now.
4,
because Scalia passed away.
So 1/4. Am I correct in saying?
So there's only 8 justices right now.
Right. So what third? A third of he's going to pick a third of the court. The person who's going to win this election is going to pick 1/3 of the Supreme Court.
Obama put 2 jackbooted communists on there already, and that was Sotomayor and Kanker, whatever her last name is.
Right.
He put 2 broads on there, and Bush got 2. He got Roberts and he got Alito.
Right.
So now Scalia passed away under dubious circumstances.
Yeah, I don't understand. He had a heart attack.
Yeah, he sleeps under his pillow.
In Texas.
So, yeah, just a little weird. But, I mean, that's the nature of the beast. I mean, couldn't be Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She's 93 years old. Maybe she's a Muppet. I don't know.
That's true. She might be dead. They just have someone with a hand up her ass.
Yeah, it's like Weekend at Bernie's.
Right, exactly.
So,
they just keep dragging her around.
Yeah, and she has, I'm not going to go into this because we're an hour and 33
we're hour
into
15
this now.
Because we spent 15. Remember, we spent 9, 10.
Kibitzing.
Yeah, we were kibitzing in the beginning.
She has some pretty outlandish radical views, but, prior to the destroy a pick, she got sworn in before that became de jure, because the Republicans just, all right, well, it's Clinton's pick, and they voted, and she got in 93 to nothing, I think. Maybe there might have been 7 senators that weren't there. But the Democrats will come out, and ever since Robert Bork, that's where the expression, they borked them, basically came out. They just came out and destroyed that guy.
Right. Yeah, it's never fun. When you go into the political arena, they're going to turn over every rock in your life.
Well, it's all one way. It's always one way.
Well,
I mean, like Obama, he got his 2 picks, and it was no drama. They just went to the Senate, and then they voted, and that was it. Bush had to go through, had to turn handstands to look what they did to Alito. I mean, his wife left the proceedings in tears.
Right.
Because they tried to paint this guy as like a child molester, devil worshiper, and they did the same thing to Roberts. And they did the same thing to Scalia. And look what they did to Clarence Thomas. And that's what they do. But the Republicans, for some reason, they just hold their nose. They cast a vote, and everyone forgets about that. But
then my question is why? Why do that? If they have a reason to not vote for them, then let's hear it.
It's basically the Senate has the power. That's their duty. Okay, so now after 3 decades of the Democrats destroying the Republican pick, Scalia passes away, and the Senate also has the power not to hear the case, which they're doing, and they're totally constitutionally allowed to do that. And everyone, all the press, the liberal press, got their panties in a bunch because they're doing what they're allowed to do.
Let me ask you this question. I mean, if the Republicans hold the Senate and the House, or maybe just the Senate. They hold the Senate, and then Clinton gets elected, and she tries to put through these liberal judges. Then couldn't the Republicans put a kibosh
not in
on
the House? No, it's all controlled of the Senate.
Well, I mean, so just the Senate. If the Republicans maintain control of the Senate, then they put the kind of kibosh and say, listen.
You think that they could, but you have rhinos. You've heard that term. RINOs,
Republican
in name only. Okay. Right. So you have like Snow up in Maine. You got mostly northeastern senators because they're the bluest part of the country. They're not reliable. You can't count on them for that.
Okay.
They'll just buckle because they want to be. See, some people want to be liked.
That's true.
Instead of doing what's right for the country.
I agree with that.
And they compromise their principles. On both sides. I'm not saying it's one side or on both sides.
They have to get reelected. That's their first job. That's their only job. As soon as they start, they get elected. Their only job is to get reelected.
Right.
That's it. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. It's to be a stand-up comedian right now. The jokes they write themselves. I have to tell you that.
Well, a lot of it is it's like you can't even believe it.
It is. It's amazing. And I know, again, it's a soundbite, but it's a very good soundbite where Trump says, listen, Russia, if you're listening, can you go in there and get the 30,000 emails?
Yeah, if you should find them.
Yeah, if you can find them. So basically you got a guy that's running for president telling a country to invade our internet and go in and steal. Or not steal, to retrieve and publish emails.
The last time I checked, that was called satire.
No, I understand. I understand that.
And if the other side made that, you wouldn't hear a peep out of the media.
Right. You're right. He is getting an unfair tongue lashing from the media.
It's like when Reagan, he got behind the mic and he said this morning he signed legislation banning communism. The bombers launch in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And the Soviet Union lost their mind. That was awesome. And so did all the liberals in Washington, D.C. They lost their mind, too.
That's true.
So. But, yeah, the guy won 49 states after that.
He was the last real American president as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, that's the way it is. All right, boss man, let's wrap this thing up. I got a lot of stuff going on.
All right, I got to go continue to run the empire.
There you go.
I got one job left to do.
All right, well, thank you very much for listening to this Brand X podcast. And if you'd like to contact us, it's very easy. We can reach on email by hello@brandxpodcast.com. And we are on Facebook, facebook.com, Brand X Podcast. And we are also on the Twitter, Brand_X_podcast. And reach out to us, tell us what you think. And until next week.
Thanks a lot for listening and have a great week. Keep cool.